In 1877, explorers discover a lost world. It's hidden on a plateau high above the South American jungle. It's only 50 years since fossilized dinosaurs were discovered, but here, they're alive. With the help of native porters, they risk death to capture them and bring them to London in order to create the world's first prehistoric zoo, Dinosauria. That's my story anyway, and I'm sticking to it because we are building a brand new park, and yes, it is going to be a 19th century Victorian dinosaur park. We're going to be in sandbox mode. We're going to be creating an entire landscape for this park. I cannot wait to get started on it. So let's go. Because we're going to be in London, I'm using the island generator on the temperate setting because the square temperate map doesn't really suit the British vibe, but this is looking good. Let's take a look at it. Looking good? But if we want this to be a park in the 1800s, then we're going to need to do a couple of things to it. Firstly, we need it to be flat, so we'll use the terrain tools to flatten out a big area of the island. And then we need it to not be an island, so we're going to cover all of the coastlines in trees, so that when we are down in the central area where we built the park, you won't be able to see that this is an island at any point. There we go, got the beginnings of a nice looking park there. Now this is going to be the most detailed thing that we have ever built in Jurassic World Evolution 3, which is going to be no mean feat because there are basically no Victorian style building pieces in the game. So I've been through every piece in the game and used the new favorites feature to create a list of pieces that might be suitable, pieces that we might be able to use in some way. You can see some of them on the left there, so let's get building. The habitats, if you can call them that, in this park are going to be a mixture of beautiful wrought iron aviaries inspired by classic European architecture, formal pools for aquatic reptiles, a giant, almost palace-like building for a massive carnivore, and some formal paddocks for herbivores. And it's going to contain the earliest dinosaurs that were discovered that we have in the game, from Iguanodon onwards. But if we're going to have a beautiful park, then the first thing that we need is a beautiful entrance. So that's what we're going to build here, starting with some classic iron railings to form the boundary to the front of the park. So this is the lamppost piece, just shrunk down as small as it will go, and then arranged to form a fence. And then we use some of these very handy gates, one of the few pieces that we can just kind of use without having to do anything with. I think these are from the Malta set, possibly, but they've got exactly the kind of style that we want on them. So we're going to use these as the front gates, and then we'll use some more of these metal pieces to create a slightly more solid piece of iron for the gates to go onto. And then we'll just get another gate in on the other side. These are as big as they go, so we'll cheat this slightly. They're going to be slightly further apart than they would actually be in order to close properly to get the entrance looking as impressive as we want it. And then we're going to start using all the other pieces I've found that might have something that could work for us. So this water fountain here makes a nice design on the limestone base of the fence. And then we can start copying the fence across to get something a bit more substantial that we can start using to form the front of the park. If you're enjoying this, by the way, don't forget to hit the like button. You can see how big an area we're going to be covering here. And we'll finish that fence off in a minute, but let's lay out the basics of the park. So what I've got here is a little placeholder, which is the size of a lagoon. And we're going to have a couple of lagoons at the front of the park. They're going to be really interesting to build because there's a lot of stuff that needs covering up. We want them to look suitably Victorian. And then at the back, the whole park is going to be bracketed by two beautiful aviaries, which is the main thing that we're going to be building today. So we'll get a placeholder in for them there. And then we'll get back and start doing some more work on the entrance. So we're going to make these big columns using some of the temple pieces from the Rebirth DLC, and then a simple plaster column from the base game. The temple pieces really do look like limestone if you get the colour right. So we'll have these either side of the entrance. These will go all the way around the fence at the start of the park, and then we're going to add some more detailing to the two that sit either side of the entrance gate, just to make sure that the entrance is as impressive as we want. We really want to get that gorgeous vibe going before you even get into the park. And there we go, so it's starting to come together. For the rest of the walls, we're not going to have this fence around the entire park because it's, well, for a start, it's about 150 pieces per fence panel, which isn't great if we're going to be covering an entire map with it. But also, even in a real park, you wouldn't always have an incredibly elaborate fence all the way around it. We're going to have a much more simple kind of stone wall surrounding the rest of the park, which will have trees in front of it, so you can't really see it anyway. And then we'll move on to the paths. So we're going to have some pretty formal pathing, taking people around the various exhibits here. From the research that I've done, the paths in parks like this aren't always geometrically perfect. They sort of follow the lie of the land a bit. So I'm not going to have perfect circles everywhere. They will be sort of vaguely circular. We'll have some going around the entrance lagoons and then leading people up to the aviaries. There's going to be another habitat that I'm really excited to build right in the center of the park. and then it will form a space at the top for the enormous palace for the predator. Finally, the boundaries of the park will be full of paddocks with fences around them for some of the early herbivores that were discovered. So the view's starting to shape up. Let's get some formal planting in here to start making it look like a park. We'll get a straight row of trees going down this entrance path here, and then we can start detailing. So this big ornamental fountain is going to be a major part of this park. We're going to use this a few times. Firstly, sunk down into the floor to create a little flower pot, which we'll put a fern in. And then I found this rusty bucket. It looks like a kind of plaque that we can place onto the columns. They're slightly inspired by a zoo in Germany called Tiergarten Nürnberg. We'll get one of the T-Rex skulls and get this in the right position to form something to make sure people are aware they're coming into a dinosaur park. I would love to put the Dinosauria name onto the fence somehow, but the fonts in the game just do not support the kind of vibe that we're trying to go for here. But something we can do is build a little ticket booth. So I've got these dome pieces from the Plaza set to make the roof for it, and then we're going to use some of these brick pieces in a classic green to create the walls. We'll make it circular so it fits in nicely with the plaza, and then just add a little window and some more wall pieces and an awning. So we've got a place where our guests can buy tickets. And there we go. Our entrance is pretty much complete. Pretty happy with how that is looking. Let's move inside the park and start building the aviary. Each aviary will sit on a hill to make them more impressive, and they're going to contain two of the earliest flying reptiles to be discovered, Dimorphodon and Pteranodon. And we're going to be using the actual Jurassic Park aviary so that we can get the animals in there, and then building a whole new aviary to surround them, inspired by the exquisite royal greenhouses at Lachen in Belgium, which are some of the most amazing pieces of architecture I've ever seen, and we're going to do our best to create something inspired by them here. We're going to build this in 3 sections, and the first section here is going to be a big glass dome that will cover roughly the bottom 2/3 of the aviary. So we're going to use this glass ceiling piece and initially double it up so we get these small squares on it, and then we'll start carving it backwards and getting it to eventually meet the in-game aviary about 2/3 of the way up. This is going to give us a really interesting look, and it's going to combine really nicely with the metal that the aviary is made of to get us the sort of glass and raw iron look that's such a feature of Victorian architecture. So we'll copy all of these on top of each other to get these small square windows that we want here, and then once we've got it to the top, we'll move it into exactly the right position, and then we're going to double up, or in fact triple up, all these pieces of glass, because at the moment you can see through them and you can see the aviary behind it, and we don't really want that. So we'll do that in a second. Firstly, we're going to use some more of these temple pieces to create a band of limestone with a pattern on it going across the front to separate the bottom section where the people would actually go in through doors, and then the dome which will form the roof. So we'll just line these up nicely so they match up with the glass. And now we can triple up all these glass pieces so it kind of looks like you can see through them, but you can't actually really see through them, which is going to make this build really hang together when it's finished. And then we'll start working on an interior. We're going to have some nice wood paneling. This particular wood piece has got the sort of ornate, rich look that we're going for on the walls in here. And we'll put a floor in as well using these tiles, and then a curved roof, which we'll make using multiple copies of this curved piece here. We don't want any grid pieces in this build for reasons which will become apparent later when we start turning this into an actual dome. So we'll just stick to pieces that are off the grid. We've used this curved wood piece before. I think it's one of my favorite pieces in the game actually. And there we go. That's the basics in. Now we'll start doing some decorating. There's some really nice, they're called window shutters. Again, I think they're from the Malta set, or maybe it's the Texarkana set, but it's that sort of ornate raw iron. It's a big feature of Victorian architecture that we want to incorporate here. And we'll use them again to create some beautiful ironwork going up the sides of the dome of the aviary as well. Because the ornate part of this piece is at the top, I discovered if we sink it into the aviary to about here, it looks really nice on the outside, and it actually looks like railings on the inside, so it still makes sense no matter which side of the glass that you're standing, which is cool. And that's the first part of this aviary section complete. So we're going to select the bottom part of what we've created here, rotate it round, make sure it's lined up with itself, and then simply move it to the other side of the aviary. And once we've got it in the right position here, then we can place that down and then exit the group, select the whole group, and we can start duplicating this and rotating it into place. So we'll do the first piece here, get these windows lined up nicely. There we go. And then we'll place it down and just keep rotating more of these sections of dome into place. You'll see that the top part isn't included in this. That's because it's further inwards towards the aviary, so it's not going to line up right. So we're going to rotate these pieces separately just to make sure everything looks absolutely perfect. And there we go, we got the beginnings of our aviary. Really like the raw iron detailing going up the side. So let's do a little bit more work on it. We're going to use some of the wire generator pieces colored white to create another little kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, just some more detailing around this top section of the aviary here. And then we're going to use that fountain piece again and some of those dome pieces to create a impressive top for the aviary. So once we've got the fountain in place, we'll put one of these plaza dome pieces down, and then we'll use that exact same technique to rotate these rounds to create the bottom part of the dome here. And then we'll do the same thing with them a bit further inwards to create a second level that's going to join it up nicely with the fountain. And then finally, we'll just colour the fountain a nice coppery green to go in with the rest of it. Get that second section of dome in just to join everything together nicely. And there we go, this is really starting to come together. We'll cover up some of the Jurassic Park metal spars with some white pieces just to tie it all together a bit more. And then I thought we'd have a nice formal hedge around it as well. There aren't actually any hedges in the game, so we're going to use a few of these bushes to create our own section of hedge and then just rotate those around the aviary. That starts to set it into position on top of its hill. We'll get ourselves a little curved line of these, place them individually, and then we can select all of that and really easily fill the rest of it in. And then we'll create an entrance for it. The door for the Innovation Centre actually works really nicely for this, so we're going to use this and just add some more detailing to it to make sure it's as impressive and Victorian looking as we want. Another one of those window shutters above it. We'll add some old style benches and lanterns on the inside as well. And once we've copied those all the way around, that's the guest part of the aviary done. Now we need to get this park actually working. In sandbox mode here, all we really need is an arrival point and some hyperloop stations to get all the paths linked up. So we're going to hide those in a sort of stately home style build here. No need to go crazy with the details. This is going to be sat at the back of the park behind some gates, but we'll make sure it looks good from a distance. Get some windows on, cover it in ivy. We'll build a little garden around it, just using the terrain brush, using that to create a space for a lawn. We'll get some gates in front of it, check it out, and then we'll move inside the aviary and start getting it ready for our Dimorphodon. We don't want to go too naturalistic with the planting in here, considering the time period that we're building in. So we're going to start with some, I guess you'd say, Grecian style columns, maybe Roman style. I know nothing about that kind of architecture, but they look pretty good. And we're going to add some perch points in there so we can get our Dimorphodon up here. And what we're going to do is build one perfect aviary for the Dimorphodon, and then we're simply going to copy it across to the other side, make a few changes to it, and that is where the Pteranodon will live. Obviously, we'll see both of those in the cinematics at the end. We'll create a little pool for them with some rock work around it. The sort of late Victorian period is the beginnings of rock work and things like that in zoos, so we can definitely have some of that in here. We'll put a fish feeder in there so they've got something to eat. And then again, we'll use rocks to make one that looks a bit more in keeping with our time period rather than this very modern looking metal build. We'll just create one side using this rock here in various different configurations, and then we can just copy it 4 times and fill in the gaps, and that's that done. And then we'll get a bit of foliage in as well. So we've got some palms and things like that around here. We'll add a few shrubs. We'll add a nice old school lamp coming down from the top. And then finally, we'll add in some trees that are tall enough to be seen from outside the aviary, because that's really going to help with the look of it. And that's the first aviary done. Now, there's well over 5,000 pieces in this, so we can't just pick it up and copy it. What we need to do is blueprint the most important bits, copy them to the other side of the park, put a new aviary inside that, and suddenly, we're in the 1800s. I thought I'd show you what it might have looked like back then before we look at it all properly. I built a little shed to cover up the next Hyperloop station as well. Let's check out the beginnings of Dinosauria. Welcome to Dinosauria. I think those entrance gates are suitably impressive, and once we've got some more park in here, it's going to look even better. And here's the aviary. So pleased with this. I think this is immediately one of my favourite things that we've built on the channel in Jurassic World Evolution 3. Even the interior is looking good. Let's check out the Dimorphodons. These were one of the first flying reptiles ever discovered. They were found here in the UK back in 1859. And whilst I'm not sure how realistic Frontier's art style is for these guys, it works absolutely perfectly for this park, because this is exactly what people used to think dinosaurs look like, i.e. scary. The columns that we put in and the perch points are working nicely. The Dimorphodons look incredible silhouetted against the sun here. And across the other side of the park is the other aviary for the Pteranodons. These were first discovered 15 years after Dimorphodon. I think having a smaller flying reptile and a larger one in the park on either side works really nicely. I would love to get my best suit on and go and explore the first Victorian Dinosaur Park. Here is an overview of what it's going to look like with the paths and everything else. Can't wait to start filling the rest of this in, and here's the whole park. I really hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you again next Saturday for episode 2 of Dinosauria. Thanks for watching. Bye.